The youngest athletic director in FBS college sports is on Locked On Sunbelt. Next.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Special guest today is SJ Tuohy, the new ULM athletics director for the Warhawks. Youngest athletics director confirmed by ULM by just a couple of months. He is all of 32 years of age. And being in sports talk in the South, and of course the blind side, which we really didn't talk about, I recognized that when he got the job at UCF, it doesn't seem that long ago. But he was very gracious with his time yesterday, and we discussed, he had to interview ULM as well for that job because they face a lot of challenges. And he understands those challenges. And I liked I don't know if it's a metaphor, certainly not a simile, but the way he approaches every day, because there's some of us who would see it differently, which I mentioned. So you'll see that in the podcast. We also discuss his athletic career. He was a college basketball player and then became a college football player. Don't see that very often. I guess you do have guys who play two sports, but he played one and then the next. We also have a humble brag and a name drop in there, so I'll listen to that as well. And what are the expectations for ULM? Off to a tough start with basketball. Football did not improve all that much. And they have a new coach in baseball, which we know the Sun Belt can get more than one bid to the NCAA tournament. So there's a lot going on there. We appreciate his time. He's the new AD over at ULM, and he's the youngest athletic director in FBS. He is SJ Tuohy, and he is on Locked On Sunbelt. Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. I'm your host, Dave Schultz. Honored and thrilled to have our next guest on, SJ Tuohy from ULM, new athletic director. You are of the Warhawks. Are you just 32 years of age? Because I remember when you got that UCF job really early in your career. I'm like, wow, that's fast.
Yeah. Look, I've been fortunate to be at some good places that have won quick, that have lost quick. We've moved around and thankful that I ended up here. 32 years old, but I think I'm aging in dog years here. These last couple weeks here, we've been grinding. So I think I'm 40 now in my body, but yeah, 32.
You got to be the youngest athletic director in FBS.
I would think so. I chat GBT'd that earlier on to confirm if that was being asked, but I believe that's true, but someone could be younger. Who knows?
I think, to be honest with you, I think I did the same thing.
Well, ChatGPT is right 100% of the time, right? It's always correct. So it must be true if it's on.
As you know, SJ, if it's on the internet, it's true.
Correct.
All
correct.
Right. Also, I'm presuming you keep the beard just to make sure you look 32 and not 13.
It's a good question. It depends on the client. Sometimes I need to go in there and look young. Sometimes I need to go in there and be like, it's my first couple of weeks. I don't know what I'm doing. That's when I shave, get it back to the young look. Sometimes you got to meet a donor, try to look a little older. So that's today. We got the beard today. All
right. So why did you take the ULM job?
Yeah, it's a great question. To me, and people have asked that, I've always liked jobs that you can impact a community. Okay, that's why I wanted to be an AD and not a coach. I think you have a little bit broader of an impact in terms of being able to get, at-risk youth involved in your programs. You have a big opportunity to impact economic development in towns. And Monroe is a place that I was somewhat familiar with. I never lived here, obviously, and spent extended time, but it excites me if a university athletic department does well, it impacts people's lives. And that's, I think, kind of my, mission and vision with it. So looking at jobs and I really wasn't looking for a job. I had a great job at Oral Roberts, and I just kind of moved there within the last, year, 13, 14 months taking that job. But it came to be where I had some connections here, and the job was open, and started talking to people. And when you looked at the problems that they had, they were problems that are problems. I mean, it's not a molehill, it's a mountain, but it's ones I thought I could climb, and it got me excited, and lucky it worked out.
So this is going to be one of those odd things. It's obviously not a big, Power 4 job where the applicant is getting interviewed. You're probably interviewing Monroe people as well. Like, what were the questions that you asked that they answered to satisfy you if they offered you the job?
Mid-major sports at any level, I think the question that comes up is how much does winning matter? How much people really, really want to win. And we look at a job like Monroe when they haven't been as successful in some sports. And there's some that have been doing pretty well. But it's a place where they haven't won maybe the big major sports in the last, decade to the consistency that they would like. And, that was my concern a little bit taking it. And you spend a little bit of time here, you talk to people, and they want to win, man. It's a place that really, really is craving for some success. So that kind of alleviated a lot of those worries. I mean, like people want vision, they want to help, they want to be involved, they want to be part of a winner. And that was kind of the hurdle looking from the outside, like, man, does this really matter? And you spend 5 minutes with our president and you learn that it matters. She wants to win.
What were some of the, okay, that's a great question and a good answer. What were some of the other challenges that you thought that they faced from the outside looking in that you asked about? Because there was all kinds of things going on, before you got the gig.
Sure. The challenges from the outside, you see like budget cuts and, program cuts and that kind of stuff. And I think our president was really proactive where some teams are going to try to bleed stuff out. She made some decisions, fiscally on the university side and the athletic side that, made sense to progress us forward. And those were questions I had as, why do we do this? What's the future forward? And I think, she answered those questions really well and explained to me, why there's been a deficit. And a lot of teams are running a deficit across the country, man. It's and ours isn't, I think, maybe as big as people would think that it is. And I think that there's some things we can do to, get back to balancing that. But a lot of our problems that we're facing in the country from a G5 level or, Ohio State, like if Ohio State's NIL budget is $100 million, which it's not, but, it's $100 million and ours is $1 million. I bet at the end of the year, they're both going to be zero. We're going to spend money that we get. So we're dealing with the same problems. A lot of people just on different scales. And those were really the questions I had were, what's been done to address these problems? Why have we done certain things? And, talking through that made a lot of sense. It's a place I felt like we can come in and make an impact.
Yeah, as long as your athletic department budget is not $250 million in debt like UCLA's is, I'm a hashtag always a bright side kind of guy. You're better off than UCLA in the Big Ten.
Well, it's funny, man. Like, everyone's like, oh, we don't have any money. This. I'm like, yeah, we don't owe people a lot of money. Okay, so we're in a little bit of a deficit, and we didn't make money with this, but like we're not like taking bonds out to fund the program like a lot of people across the country are. So I mean, again, we could be in a better fiscal situation, and I hope to get us there. But it wasn't as far off as I think maybe the perception would have been.
Talking to SJ Tuohy, new athletic director for the ULM Warhawks. All right, so we have you always get these questions. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, or things like that. So, what are the short-term goals that you have, like immediately, as much as you can do, and then some longer-term goals that you want to see to come to fruition in 2-3 years down the road?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's kind of been my biggest task daily coming here, and I want to do a million things. It's like, what can we accomplish today that puts us in a better spot 3 months from now, 3 years from now? Immediately, I think things I've wanted to improve involve fan experience. Just more interactive basketball games, more easily accessible to. I joke around, but like someone had to work to give us money. Before it's like 9 clicks and there's 20 different levels, and how do you do this? Now I want to simplify things, our processes. That's a big piece of what I want to do. But really, man, creating more clarity in our fan experience and how we're selling season tickets and interactivity at games was kind of the immediate address piece. And I think long term, in that same mindset, like I'd love to get more premium seating opportunities at our basketball arena, at our football stadium. I think we have, facilities that you can win at our level here. And, so the next piece of that is, how can you continue to monetize those facilities and provide a better fan experience with them? So that's the 2 to 3 year, window, and then building a more sustainable, budgeting revenue share plan for our teams and using the things we have in our state, like TOPS, to get more in-state type kids on these rosters. And, I can go for about an hour and a half of things I want to do in 2 or 3 years. I think that my biggest challenge now is what can we do in 2 to 3 hours that are
sure.
And there's a lot to learn in our state with, the bureaucracies and this board and this board and this board that I haven't had to deal with at the last couple of schools in terms of being a private school or that sort of thing. So I'm learning it. And I think, what I want to, I joke that when I get to the office, it's 4th and inches, man. Every day is 4th and inches here. And at some point we're gonna get a first down, but the last couple of weeks it's 4th and inches, game on the line. How can we just get a first down today? How do we get 1 yard today to get us a new set of downs? So we're working on it.
See, I like that attitude because 4th and inches is a lot better than 1st and 25. So, which
right,
is
there's the game on the line, man. The game's on the line every day when we come in here.
Okay, well, that's a different attitude. So because that's the way I think people see. In fact, maybe people see, UL Monroe as ULM as 3rd and 25, always behind the sticks.
It ain't that.
And the idea of trying to make incremental changes. So, I've been part of places where, you get in there and they're like, that's not the way we used to do things. Well, the reason I'm here is because the way we were doing things wasn't working. So let's try something different.
Look, there's weirdly enough, places I've been in my career have all been on the kind of the front of rebuilds. Right? I played for a guy named Chad Morris at SMU, and that was, year 2 of him being there when I came in, and we were really, really bad, man. I mean, we had to be the worst team in the country that first, 1-11. And so you saw kind of how he built that program and did things. And we come into Arkansas, and year 1 with him, and we didn't rebuild that program. It wasn't a great spot. Took it over. We didn't, make it better. But I learned a lot of, what I thought would work during rebuilds that didn't work, and that was. A lot of what we did there was, man, if the old way worked, we wouldn't, be here. And the old way worked, but our way didn't really work either. Then you come into Liberty with Hugh Freeze in his first year going FBS there at Liberty. Now, thankfully, we were really, really good there that first year, 11-1, and finished top 15 in the country. But you saw how that was built. And coming with Gus, UCF was his first year. So I've, for better or worse, pretty much everywhere I've been, maybe minus ORU, has been a place where it's a rebuilding process. And some have gone really well and some haven't gone well, which I'm thankful for now to look back on. So you're correct. It's a fine line to bounce between the old way we didn't work, and that's why I'm here. And also, you want to capitalize on things that were going, well. We do have programs that are doing well. We do have coaches who've been here a long time and are happy to be here. And so you need to balance it. But there's definitely some changes we have to make.
All right, let's take a time out. When we come back, we'll talk about SJ Tuohy trying to make changes. He got hired when the athletic calendar was already underway. How do you go about doing that while it is already playing itself out? We'll talk about that next after I tell you about Rocket Money. Let's be real. Managing your finances can feel overwhelming. Between subscriptions you forgot about, bills that keep going up, and trying to figure out where all your money actually goes each month. It's easy to feel like you're losing control. And who has time to track every transaction or hunt down hidden fees? That's where Rocket Money comes in. The personal finance app that helps you take control. It finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. I love how it tracks all the subscriptions and let me cancel them right in the app with just a few taps. No more hunting down customer service numbers. The automatic transaction categorization is a game changer. I can finally see exactly where my money is going each month. You can set budgets and goals, get personalized insights, and receive real-time alerts for large transactions, upcoming bills, and low balances. It even consolidates your checking, savings, loans, and investments into a single dashboard so you get a clear view of your entire financial picture. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Let's continue our conversation with new ULM Athletic Director SJ Tuohy, trying to make some changes while the athletic calendar and seasons are already underway. Well, how do you, and we're talking with SJ Tuohy, ULM AD on Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. How do you make changes when the season is already ongoing? Plans have sort of been made.
Sure.
So how do you make those ever slight adjustments if you can?
Yeah, I mean, especially from an administrative standpoint, coming in, midway through a fiscal year, there's only so much you can do in terms of, the budget and getting ahead of it. I mean, I think the key, like we talked about earlier, from an administrative standpoint, if the season's going on, there's only so much you can do to impact the team, right? The roster's set, the season's going on, the schedule's set. So, you want to focus on getting to meet people and being strategic about how we're spending time stewarding donors. You want to focus on things like we're doing at basketball games, trying to get more interactive during timeouts and more interactive during the game and getting people involved. You want to start trying to modernize some of our I just mentioned being jokingly trying to get a game day, like a QR code that has our program guide, just small stuff that, when you start getting to the big stuff, you don't have to go back and climb those little hills because we're starting to get a plan for them. But we're at a spot in college athletics now when the transfer portal is going for football. So we're working for some things that are happening, 6 months out currently. And that's a big piece, man. Can we be efficient in how we're doing our rev share contracts, and which is new to a place like ULM? And I feel like everything we do in college athletics, you're you're planting seeds for things they're going to harvest in a year. So it's, to your point, you're correct. I mean, you're coming midway through a year. There's only so much you can do. But if you look up in 6 months and start trying to do things that when it restarts, you're already way behind.
All right, and you brought it up. You brought up Chad Morris. How do you go from playing college basketball to playing college football? That doesn't happen very often. Some players are two-way, but you didn't. You played 4 years of college hoops, and then you went to go walk on at SMU.
Yeah, me and Greg Paulus. Greg Paulus is an insanely better athlete than me, from going from Duke to Syracuse to play. Everyone asks that question, I'm like, well, it's easy. You just be really bad at basketball, and then all of a sudden you get to play a year of football. Get out of it. It was kind of a weird story, man. It's a bit of a God thing, but I was at a school that had a coaching change in my undergrad and college at a school called Loyola, Maryland, which, being Louisiana, trying to tell us when you went to Loyola, there's no shot they can get Loyola, Maryland. It's like, oh, Loyola Chicago. I'm like, no, not that. Oh, Loyola New Orleans, the Ram. I'm like, nope, still not that one. Oh, with Hank Gathers on the West Coast. I'm like, no, it's any other one that you haven't heard of. That's the one that I went to. The Patriot League does not quite resonate here in Louisiana. But
Aren't they good at lacrosse, by the way?
Won the national championship my freshman year. Yes, sir.
There you go. So I'm an upstate New York guy, so I'm all about the lacrosse, although I didn't play it.
If I had a dollar,
I'm familiar with it.
That took my college girlfriend, we could fund our whole program. Absolutely. Lacrosse was the main sport. I had a coaching change, and it didn't work out with the new coach as well as I would have wanted to. And so I graduated from there. And I really, in my head, thought, man, if this guy can be a college basketball coach, that's what I want to do. I kind of grew up in a basketball family. My dad was a very, very successful college basketball player. I grew up, around a lot of basketball coaches. So I wanted to be a college basketball coach. And I was going to walk on. I was a scholarship player there. I wanted to walk on somewhere. It was kind of late in the process. There wasn't a transfer portal back then. That wasn't how it worked. So I wanted to find somewhere where if I had to walk on, I could learn to be a coach. I knew Chad Morris. He was a family friend from vacationing at a place called Destin, Florida, up on the Panhandle.
Sure.
And talking to him, I kind of want to be involved in football, and I was thinking about going this admin route. But he said, man, maybe we'll get you here, but you can definitely walk on the basketball team with Coach Brown. Well, Larry Brown was the coach, and he was my dad's dad's. He lived on his couch when he coached the New Orleans Buccaneers ABA team years ago, and talked to him. And, man, yeah, you can walk on. I'm like, man, Larry Brown's like, there's no better coach in the world maybe to learn to be a coach from than Larry Brown.
Right.
And of course, I've been there for 2 weeks, and Larry Brown gets fired for doing NIL, pre-NIL.
Right.
And Coach Morris kind of said, well, you walk on the football team. And you're like, well, okay, I haven't played football in 5 years. And he's, what position you play in high school? I was like, well, I was a safety. He's like, yeah, it's probably not going to work here at SMU. So I ended up punting. I was like, whatever, how many strings there were. I was if there was 5 strings, I was the 5th string punter. But man, I loved it. It really brought my love back for sports, because basketball it's tough, because you're only having, if you're not playing, you're not happy in basketball. There's 8 guys that are going to be happy on a college basketball team, right. And maybe 10, because 2 on the end of the bench know they're not going to play, so they can be happy. But football, man, brought me back to being like a team. Man, I just loved it. And of course, like a week before the season, our starting quarterback started the first game. Our backup punter breaks his leg. Our starting punter, Australian, he couldn't hold. And Coach Morris was like, has anyone ever held for field goals? And I was like, yeah, I haven't. And that was a lie a little bit. I hadn't quite done that, but ended up working out. My long snapper helped me out. And so I ended up getting on the field, which I did not expect to do, and help all the field goals, a couple punts. So it was a great experience. And Coach Morris, man, was back at Clemson, which is awesome. But I learned so much from him in my career and life that I was very lucky to have that work out at SMU.
So a few things commenting that. I understand about being really bad at basketball. I was the 13th man on a 12-man JV basketball team. So I get that. The team manager, one of my best friends, saw the floor more than I did, picking up everyone else's warm-ups. Also, I don't know if everybody noticed the humble brag and name drop. First of all, he's vacationing in Destin. So a lot of people in the Sun Belt know that area. And he's dropping one of the all-time great coaches in basketball history, Larry Brown. Family friend.
And it was, I hadn't talked, I never met him. My dad's like, well, Larry's at SMU, and, he knew my dad's also New Orleans guys. He knew your granddaddy. I can call him. I was like, man, Larry Brown would be like the best person in the country.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And, it worked out. And he's like, I'll get you a good walk on for scouts. So yeah, man, I'll go there and be a scout. And I was one of the very few college players who appreciated the education piece. And so I'm like, man, SMU's a great school. That'd be an awesome place to live in Dallas. So yeah, we got lucky. But Destin, Florida, back when I started going, my mom went to graduate high school in Destin, Florida. I mean, it's amazing that area has blown up
a little bit.
She went to Choctahassee High School up in the Panhandle for a couple of years. So it's that place now is friggin' packed.
It is. Well-to-do area. Let's take one more time out, and we'll talk about a little timeline issue. The new baseball coach was hired just before the new athletics director. How does he feel about that? And Ford Pemberton. We'll talk about that when we come back right after I thank everybody. All right, we're off to a great start in 2026. Really appreciate it. Podcast. I'm not sure about record numbers. We had a lot going on in December attending the Sun Belt championship ball game. We had JMU and Tulane, for that fact of the matter, in the college football playoffs. We got the transfer portal opened up, although I guess that was this year. But a lot of guys went into it last year. We're still off to a great start, and I do appreciate everybody and your support. Sincerely, I do. Some new people have coming in. And again, I'm the one answering it. I know it's got the logo on there on YouTube, but that is me doing the answering. So, and I try to answer everybody's questions as much as I can. All right. And as honestly as I can. I don't think I'm, can be a smart ass a little bit, but for the most part, I answer it as sincerely as I can. So I appreciate that. We got basketball still going on. And of course, give it about 6 weeks and we'll have a crossover season with baseball. So I'm trying to still get to that 3,000 plateau when it comes to subscriptions. That would be big if we can get that before the baseball season, because I think organically this can grow to 4,000 before, I don't know, about before football season. That's a lot. All right. Already planned, again, going down to Louisiana to see the Cajuns play. They're at home, and a little LSU to see my guy, coach from Northeastern, but also planning going back down to New Orleans for the Sun Belt Media Days. So actually, I already have those days off, so it works out well. Just have to take one day beforehand. So I appreciate all the support. Please also, so go to YouTube and subscribe, Locked On Sunbelt, as well as Apple Podcast and Spotify, although most people do get it from Apple these days. Really do appreciate it. Let's get back to our interview and wrap it up with ULM AD SJ Tuohy. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Few more questions for SJ Tuohy, ULM Athletic Director. We do talk about the timeline with Ford Pemberton. He was hired the new baseball coach, and letting SJ know how important baseball is, right? Going to be tough. You're not going to get two Sunbelt teams into the college football playoff. That's never going to happen. Although two G5 teams did get in there this past season. It's a one-bid basketball league. That's not going to happen. And however, though, baseball it can be 2, 3, 4 teams. Absolutely, right? And Coastal just played for the national championship last year. So have had plenty of teams host super regionals in the past. And so it's a big sport here when it comes to the Sun Belt, kind of levels the playing field, if you will, so to speak. So we talk about that, and then we talk about what are expectations for ULM, and how quickly can he get them to where he wants them to be, because obviously they've been lacking on the court for a little bit, all right, which he acknowledges. So let's wrap things up. He is the new athletic director at ULM. He is SJ Tuohy, and he is Locked On Sunbelt. SJ Tuohy, the ULM new athletics director. All right, so a few more questions. Really appreciate his time. And so something else that happened, to make sure I get my timeline right, and something about baseball and the Sun Belt is big, because with the G5, everyone is not happy. Well, not everybody, but the Power 4 people in the media not happy that 2 G5 schools got in the football playoff. Basketball, really, it's a one-bid league the way that it goes. In baseball, though, you can get multiple bids into the NCAA tournament. Coastal Carolina played for the national championship. We've had plenty of teams play in super regionals. So that's where, this baseball is really important to the Sun Belt. But new ULM coach Ford Pemberton was hired before you got there. How does that work out for everybody involved? Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, Ford just left my office an hour ago. I mean, it's they had to have a coach. I mean, I'm not faulting anyone that's here. You got to hire a baseball coach. I think Ford can be really successful here. I mean, he's a guy who, look, if you lean into Monroe will lean back, and that's what this place has been wanting for is people that are involved in this community. And I think that the guys, our coaches that have been successful here, have done that, and Ford is doing that. Ford's a guy that you never have to say go to. So sometimes you got to say no, and we'll take that 100 times out of 100. You don't have to tell him anything. He's ready to roll. If he asks for a fundraising graphic and you don't have it the next day, he's already made one himself. He's posted it out there. He's rolling. If anyone can win out here, I think he can. I think Ford gets our landscape come from Memphis, and understands this region, and I'm excited about him. But no, it was not my hire. But if he does well, I'll take credit for it. In about 5 years, I'll look back and go, I think that was me. Are you guys sure that I didn't bring that guy in the same year? What were the dates? Prove it.
All right, let's wrap things up. SJ Tuohy, new Monroe Warhawks AD. So what are the expectations? Because you have, and the football coach, our guy Bryant Vincent, may have the 2 toughest jobs in FBS. Flat out, period, end of story. It is very difficult. It's a lack of businesses, a lack of revenue, and you got a handful of schools up there. It's just not you guys. La Tech is coming in. Grambling is up there. Bring them on. There's a lot of challenges up there. So what are I don't want to say legit expectations. We'll just go with what are your expectations? How long does it take? As Kurt Signetti is proving, it doesn't take very long at all. How long does it take to start to compete in the Sun Belt, we'll say in football?
I don't think it's a 2-part question, right? When we talk about Monroe, and okay, there's not this money in businesses, man, and I'm not trying to fill smoke here, but I think there's a lot more happening here than people give credit for. I think with Meta coming to town and they're bringing a huge build and thousands of jobs, and you're talking about companies like Google wanting to do data centers, and the history of companies like Delta being started here and Coca-Cola having a huge bottling piece here. There's people here who have been connected to ULM, but maybe not committed to ULM. And I think if we can get a little bit more community buy-in from people, Monroe's a weird little place in terms of like people that leave here come back a lot. It's a place people like to live, and there's a lot of old money, a lot of new money. We got to do a better job. But to your point, it's still a reality that we face with the revenue piece. As it pertains to competing right away, I just interviewed we're trying to hire a women's soccer coach, and we've been talking to a lot of candidates and want to make sure we get the right person. And they just asked that same question. They said, what are your expectations for this job? Because our guy last year won the league. And we got to punch above our weight sometimes to do stuff like that. But he won the league here, so it could be done. And the new coach said, "Look, he won the league. Girls are leaving. I said my expectation is that anytime we take the field, whether it's against LSU or Southeast Louisiana, and of course we're talking about soccer at this point, but I said that we have a chance to win the game. In that case, the match. I was like, I don't care if we lose by 3, if we won by 2. Like I want to go to a soccer game on Tuesday night against whoever, and me show up and go, we can win tonight. Are we going to win them all? Probably not. But I want a coach to compete with attitude. And look, we did enough times, and the expectations change, and we better win tonight. Football wise, I don't think they were as far off last year as it may have seemed. Looking at the end of the record, I was at the game. I got hired the same day, and I went to the game against Lafayette over at their place the last game of the year, and they were a field kicker away from winning that game. We didn't have a kicker on the roster because all 3 of them got hurt with freak injuries and the craziest thing of all time, and had to go for it on 4th and 8 with no time left. And you make a 17-yard field goal or whatever, a 25-yard field goal, game's over. So, again, if and buts, we lost the game. Okay, so I'm not a moral victory person. Losing teaches you how to lose, but I think if they had a couple things go away last year, looking at a 5-6 win season. So I think Brian is a guy. If anyone can win here, it's Bryant Vincent. He's recruits really well. He gets the JUCO piece. He gets Louisiana kids. He finds the right pieces in the portal. Our league is going to be as good as, and I shouldn't say this because you can overcome it, but if you got a good quarterback, which I think we return a lot of guys that can compete for that job, and we got a couple coming in, then you got a chance to win. And I think that's the first piece of it. I think we're going to retain a lot of players that people maybe didn't think that we're going to retain. And I think that's going to help a lot. Having continuity in our league is rare. If you have good players you picked off. So bringing back even, a high percentage of those guys is super beneficial. And we got to win in JUCOs. And I think Brian does a good job with that. So if we get a quarterback, we retain some of these, veteran players you think we're going to do and hit the right JUCO guys, then we'll see what happens. It's the same thing for the still soccer coach. Are we going to win the league next year in football? I don't know. But I think every Saturday that we play, you're going to see a really competitive team. And if you do that enough times, you'll get some wins.
SJ Tuohy, new Monroe ULM Warhawks athletics director. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for sitting through a little technical difficulty. Someone wants to go home on your end because someone turned off the light in your office.
I can't see him. I'm like, maybe I'll just keep talking. I don't know if he's still there. I'm hanging out for a while, so hopefully you edit out all my texting and just sitting here, thumbing my phone.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, SJ. Congratulations on the gig, and we'll hope to have you on sometime soon again. Thank you so much.
Man. Sounds good.